Hello and welcome to the Cinebums. This is our last episode of the horror month. If you're a video audience, John is dressed like incredibly festively, and
Oh
I hope,
wow. Yeah. Wasn't
and I
even
hope,
intentional, but
wow, yeah, I mean, I'm just like mentioning it now, but yeah, it seems awfully intentional, just due to how fall and how
yeah.
color coordinated it is.
This is like my candy corn cosplay that I have on right now. Like the yellow, the orange. Yeah, it almost looks like I'm wearing candy corn right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
very
does.
very fall. Which I don't know your opinion of candy corn, but now in the internet age, everyone loves to shit on candy corn. Um,
Yeah,
I don't mind
yeah.
it though. Everyone hates it. I don't mind it,
I
especially those
think
little pumpkins.
I think I dislike candy corn, but I don't see why it's trendy to shit on candy corn at
Yeah.
all. I don't know. I don't think when I was a kid I ever liked it. I more liked the idea of it. I don't know. Everyone acted like surprised when they started to shit on candy corn online, as if they had just discovered that it was bad. And I'm like, I don't know. It always wasn't that that great. I don't know.
It's always different than what you think. I don't know. Yeah, it's easy to romanticize candy corn, but yeah, I like it in moderation. I don't mind it. I'm not like just I haven't
Popping
eaten
it,
it
yeah.
in a long time. Like I'm not just eating it
Right.
all October and November, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not a hater of candy corn. But anyway,
Yeah, it's one of those festive things that splits audiences a little bit.
I guess like Peeps around Easter too, maybe
Oh
similar to
yeah.
that.
I do not like Peeps at
I hate
all.
Peeps. I'm not a marshmallow guy in general.
Yeah,
So anything
I had to
like
tell
that.
my mom to stop getting the Peeps a little bit ago because she was getting them for years. Yeah, I
Had to break the news.
marshmallows are a little much.
Yeah.
And Peeps are a lot. Peeps are a lot, especially if you're not into marshmallows.
Yeah, because it's marshmallow
Um,
and then it has like the coating around it too. It's just too much.
Yeah, they're weird. I like eggnog. That is another thing
Uh
that I feel like people either like or really don't like.
yeah, I do not like eggnog.
Understandable. It's a really
Yeah.
weird thing.
But it's
I think
I like you said with candy corn, I love the idea of eggnog
right,
as
right.
like
Yeah, exactly.
this like Christmas time drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just like
Uh-huh.
sounds so like I want to like it so bad, but I just don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When I was man, we'll have to bring this thread up again in December for
Yeah,
our
we'll
Santa
talk more.
Claus
Yeah.
episodes because we're jumping the gun. But yeah, when I was a kid and I first discovered eggnog, I was like, oh my God, I love this just so much for some reason. I don't know why. Like to the point where I was like, I'd be at, and I think it was mainly because I did like the idea of it. And, I was a kid, so I wasn't even like boozing it up or anything with the eggnog. And I was drinking it like at family holidays to the point of it hurting my stomach because it can do that very easily. There is a lot of dairy in
Yeah.
eggnog. There were times as a kid where I would go to the grocery store like with like my brother or with friends, and like how you'd go and like you'd go like how you'd go to 7-Eleven and get snacks or something like during the holiday
You would
season.
get
I get like
eggnog.
an eggnog for like myself. Yeah, like not
Oh
like
my god.
not like a Slurpee or anything like that. Like I'd get like eggnog. I definitely don't like it as much now. Like definitely do not. And I don't even think if I've drank it in years cuz it is a weird thing. Yeah, I think I definitely borderline maybe even don't like it now, but I definitely had my phase. And then I've gone to Christmas parties where there was someone who made these like great eggnog milkshakes that had like the smallest amount of alcohol in it, but
Yeah.
they were still
Uh-huh.
like the alcohol added like I don't know, it gave the eggnog more like character, more umph, like whatever it was probably like bourbon or whiskey or something like that. But I remember loving those eggnog shakes. But other than that, dude, I don't really like eggnog that much anymore.
Yeah, I never had it when I was younger, so I don't have like any
But I don't think
nostalgia for it.
I don't even know if kids are supposed to like it. I just think like adults like it's a festive adult drink to have with
Yeah.
booze. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think of a dad in Christmas, a family Christmas
Right.
movie,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Chevy
like
Chase,
Clark Griswold, I'm
Griswold.
sure was
Yeah.
like, I got the eggnog out, guys,
Yeah.
you know, like that sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
anyways, this is horror month, so
Talking about scary things like eggnog. Yeah.
right, right, yep. John is historically scared of eggnog.
Yes, it's on record now. Yeah, I'm working on my screenplay now about a killer eggnog.
I mean, but back to like paranoia and anxiety and thinking someone's gonna kill you when you live alone. I've thought more lately about because I've watched some scary movies lately, some really scary ones. And I've thought more lately about like before we get into like I guess our horror binge, I wanted to talk a little bit about like I don't know, to me like what are and you of course. What are some
Just you.
what are yeah. What are some of the scariest movies like I have ever seen? You know, like that
Oh,
genuinely, not like what are the best horror movies of all time, not
right.
that discussion, but like what movies have like scared me the most? And I think if we're just gonna like, casually throw those out there, I won't mention like one of these because it's on my horror bender and it's like what inspired this thread, but I guess like obviously I've mentioned Halloween at the beginning of the month.
Hmm.
But I guess a few of the other like movies that have scared me as much as any movie would be The Exorcist. What was I gonna
That
say?
one is
Oh,
also, I would say, is a really scary one for me too.
right, yeah, and especially when I see clips of it, and I see the kid like crawling around and stuff on its like
Yeah.
fingers and his head spinning. I'm like, that is one of the scariest movies ever. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
even like, so this is like a little like, this is a little deeper into that. I am not a super religious person, but I think people who are very religious, especially Catholic or Christian, find The Exorcist very terrifying, especially because
Yeah.
they like believe in the horror of the exorcist. Like their faith is based around this existing. Anything like if you are Catholic or Christian, anything with the devil or demons or like just like them taking up a human body is like to them like that is real fear, the way I am afraid of like someone murdering me or like coyotes and what what all the real shit I'm actually afraid of.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I am not usually too freaked out or just even interested in too much like supernatural stuff like I don't know, The Conjuring, or there's that
Right.
show like The Haunting of Hill House. Something where it's all
Mhm.
just like this house is haunted and there's these like, I don't know, different ghost type things that appear, like, or like, yeah, exercising a demon. That stuff doesn't scare me as much as someone is outside my window like looking at
Right.
me. Someone's,
Yeah.
you know, like there's like
How
an
terrible would
actual,
that be if someone
yeah,
was watching me right
yeah,
now?
like an actual like human, or
Right. Yeah.
just even just like a physical being that's not like some supernatural
Same.
ghost, whatever.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I do recognize when like the supernatural horror movies are done just very well and where like they are very scary and it's like about like an atmosphere, building that atmosphere and like just I am very scared of like the movie Insidious is very scary to me and that is supernatural horror, and you can say I'm not like scared of that stuff in real life, but if I see, you know, a movie where it's done well, like, and it's genuinely scary like that, then I will end up being scared of like at least that movie in my real life. I'll be
Yeah.
thinking about that, like images of that movie, you know, later. Which brings me to The Exorcist, where if I ever see clips of that demonized child, you know, and like the voice and stuff, I'm like, that is definitely one of the scariest things in movies. Like, it's just so well done.
Yeah. Speaking of like classic horror movies like that too, I still think The Shining is one that I just think
Yeah.
back on like imagery so often. That
Right,
freaks me
right,
out.
right.
And then that one
Yeah.
is another like atmosphere that is just so
Ghosts, and
unsettling.
yeah, it's about a
Yeah.
haunted hotel, and yeah,
Yeah.
and it puts like the images of the twins there. It sticks in your head. You think about that later while you're trying to go to sleep, like Stanley Kubrick intended, and you're like,
Yeah.
fuck.
Or thinking of him like the naked old woman in the bathtub.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
And yeah, and then when Jack Nicholson starts going crazy with the axe, it's yeah, there's just like yeah, those little moments that really stick out. Um I'd also say movies that really scare me are like Dario Argento Giallo movies.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like it's partially too because of how they look. Like
Yeah.
they're like older, grittier in a way, but
Hmm.
there's something about how even the people look in these movies that is just kind of spooky. Like they just look like they're in a horror movie.
They're like
Um,
cold looking, and
yeah, yeah.
right.
And there's usually, I don't know, more theatrical. I don't know if villains is the right word, but yeah, those
Right,
ones
right.
really scare me too.
Yeah, I still have to go down that rabbit hole a little bit more. I haven't gone down it as much as you, but yeah, I get that. So I guess what else would be on this list? So back to okay, real fear. You know, I don't want to jump back to my quick like thing about the coyotes real quick, because I am very personally scared of coyotes for some reason. And
Really?
I find I'm not the only one who's scared of coyotes.
Huh.
I was watching like Bill Burr's special at the Red Rocks, and he has a thread where he's like, it's a bit where he's like, you know, arguing with his wife or something like that, and he's saying something like, "Women never appreciate what you're doing," or something like that, and
Sounds
he's
like yeah.
like, I can't, I. He's like, I don't want to take out the trash at night. And he's like, of course, I'm scared of the coyotes too. And like, he's like talking about how they're both scared of the coyotes. And he's like, they're rabid dogs that hunt in packs. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, Bill Burr's also scared of the coyotes. And also Stephen A. Smith, who every year NBA season comes around, which I am, I am always just lucky to hear about his new opinions on the NBA season. I am back at it again. But I remember years ago, he was talking about, like, he was like ranting about something about like Phoenix, or the city of Phoenix, and he was like, because he's very he likes to talk about cities and compares cities a lot, and he's like, I want to be in South Beach or LA because weather, that's what he talks about all the time. Like, don't want to get near Chicago during the cold, blah, blah, blah. And then he'll be like, oh, Phoenix, can't be in Phoenix. I'm scared of those coyotes. So when I see things like that, I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one
Not
who's
alone.
scared of the coyotes. Yep. But yeah, I am scared of coyotes.
Wow, I would say coyotes are an animal I'm not too afraid of, mainly because I've seen one like in person, and it ran away from me as soon as it saw
Yeah,
me. So I
right.
feel like they're easy to scare, but again, they could be in groups, like Bill Burr
That
says.
is
Who knows?
that
Yeah,
is my
that
fear,
I don't
John.
like groups though.
The groups of coyotes. Yeah,
A
I have
lone
seen a
coyote I could
couple.
take, but yeah.
I will fight. I will fight to the death with one
I'll
coyote.
kill that fucker. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a couple just lone coyotes in my neighborhood, and they have like just ran away. But every time I see one, I'm like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
right away. Yeah, I'm like, holy fuck. And I was on a hike by myself when I first moved out to California, and I went on this hike where I went on a hike alone where just scaled this like pretty much this mountain or giant hill, whatever you want to call it. Like I went to town, like it was all like uphill like this, like steep, and I just like climbed and scaled it, Rocky Four style. And so I went the easy way down, which is kind of, like around sort of thing, like, but not like just down. I went like around. And on that way down, I saw two coyotes and I was just so terrified. I was like, holy fuck, there's two of them,
Yeah.
like two could take me for sure.
Yeah. When you're on your own, the stakes are so much higher. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because at least if you were with a few other people, it wouldn't be so bad. But I have a ton of anxiety hiking alone for a lot of
Yeah,
those same reasons.
right.
I try to be so hyper aware. Like even if I have my dog with me, I'm still just like
Well,
hyper
yeah,
aware
because
of
yeah, and
my
you want to
surroundings
protect
and
your dog
noises.
too,
Yeah. Yeah, my dog couldn't take a mountain lion,
No,
which is definitely my main fear.
right.
Hiking
See,
is mountain lion.
that's the real fear.
Yeah.
For sure. I've definitely hiked spots around me where I am now, and they're more kind of like more like rock climby areas. And I'm like, what if there was just a mountain lion? Like, I'm here by myself right now. This is fucking risky. Not that there probably aren't even mountain lions in those areas, I'm thinking, but you never know.
Apparently they don't like actively seek out humans, but if they're like younger or really hungry, then they will. But yeah, still, I just do not want to come. It's just like in when we lived in California, we are on next door, and just the amount of like people in our surrounding neighborhoods that would share like camera footage from their driveway of a mountain lion walking by, and it's like, oh my god, that's
Whoa.
like 3 minutes away from us right now. And it was like 2 a.m. and on their camera, there's a mountain lion just walking by their driveway. And then I'm just like, I
Oh
can't
my
even take my
God.
dog out in the middle of the night without freaking out about that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. Maybe in North Cal, the mountain lions are just more abundant, I guess.
And it might be where we were too. We were right by a town called Los Gatos, which means the cats in Spanish, which is
Oh, it's just the
it's
mountain lion town.
yeah,
That's a rough town to be in.
it wasn't named for little house cats. That's for sure. Recording again. Where did we leave off? Uh,
We were
about
back on. We're talking
coyotes and
about
mountain lions.
fear and anxiety
Yes.
of the animals that coexist with our society, John.
Oh yes, of course.
uh, yeah, but I don't know. I guess I wanted to segue then into into the next film that I was gonna mention that is like one of the scariest movies to me. I don't know if we've ever talked about it before. It's The Strangers.
Oh, I don't
I don't know if we've
think
ever
we
talked
have
about it.
either, but that is also one that there's two of those movies, aren't there?
Yeah. I feel
Both of
like we may
those
have
scare me a
discussed
lot.
Prey
Yeah,
at Night before.
yeah, we might have done that
Like,
for a horror bender last year.
or some like whenever that I
Yeah.
think it came out years ago, but like whenever it came out, I feel like we were podcasting around that
Oh,
time. So
maybe.
I feel like it had to have come up, but who knows? That could have been a long time ago. For all I know, it could have been a 2017 or 2018 movie. Yeah, the original Strangers is exactly what I mean by the real fears. It's kind of like a worst nightmare for people who are afraid of that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a specific scene in the first one that I always remember, and it's just I don't remember any of the characters, but this woman's in the kitchen, and
Yeah.
behind her you can see there's a doorway where it's really dark. There's no light on in that
Right.
hallway,
Right.
and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden there's just someone standing there.
Right.
They just like
Yeah.
move into the frame, and it's just like,
Yeah.
and I always think of that.
Yeah. It's
I
so
hate
scary.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the cover of the movie, I think, too,
Yes.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is, yep. So scary. And I think it's also the fact that like when I watched it with my like college roommates at the time. They pretty much just built up my roommates like built up how scary this was, and they also like told me like that it was like based off things that like actually people were doing and shit like that, like that there was a group of people out fucking with other, out fucking with people in the middle of nowhere, and then they actually like murdered them, and they were like, and I think the movie at the beginning does have, like this is based off of real events or blah blah blah,
Oh
and like
yeah.
maybe closes with some, text too that says that, and it's just like, I know the fact that it does put you into that mindset and it does feel so real, is also just what makes the movie so effective.
Yeah. Yeah. You can easily just picture that happening to you. And yeah, watching it is just it's I don't know if it's like a suburban thing or whatever, but my sister and I both had like a fear growing up of like someone breaking in uh
Yeah.
and not knowing, especially.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, not
that one's
knowing.
yeah.
um
Obviously
I
you
feel
find out, but not knowing at first there's someone like standing behind you in the doorway or like looking out a
right.
window, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a B and B like nightmare
Mm,
scenario too, and we've all like we've had a B and B that's probably in a more remote location, and that just seems like a very like plausible scenario, and you're kind of just, you know and just the fact that like the terrorizers in this themselves are like aware of the circumstance of it, that they like they seem like the terrorizers seem like very self-aware, to where they're like, oh, we know like their whole mindset, like they're like away from civilization in the middle of this cabin, they really can't contact anyone, they are just all alone, like they're very vulnerable right now, like we need to do really is like, do things like knock on the door and like have just some creepy girl like standing there asking if like, what does she say, is like, is Tara here or some shit like that. Like that's all it takes, you know what I mean? And then
yeah.
it just like escalates so much, and like it ain't like and it's not like in Halloween or whatever. And like I think in Scream there is an aspect of like they are fucking with them on the phone for like a couple minutes or something like that. It's not like the whole like movie that they're fucking
Yeah.
with them, and then they finally just put them out of their misery, like they finally kill them.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. And it's actually interesting. I was reading some article the other day about how watching scary movies, there's just some like study, who knows how accurate it is, but can help with anxiety for certain things like this because it gives you like potential coping mechanisms if you're in that scenario, or like what you would do if something like that happens. But for something like The Strangers, that only makes it more real to me that this could happen
Yeah.
to me when I
Yeah.
when I see that. And like you said, like they know like how vulnerable you are, and it's like
Mhm.
those people are in control
Mhm.
of you in a way that
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
playing
there's
their
no
game.
way of you overturning that
Yeah,
at all. Like yeah, there's
you're
no
playing
there's
their
no
game, and there's no way
there's no
around it.
hand you could play where you're like,
Yeah, yeah,
you know what? I'm also crazy. Don't worry. Hey, I'm crazy too.
yeah.
All
I could
right.
fuck
Like,
with you. Yeah,
yeah.
you want to fuck with me? I'll fuck with you. Yeah, I'll put on a mask and take a kitchen knife and see how you
Yeah.
like
That'd
it.
be
Yeah,
like I don't know, like if like the Office characters were dealing with it. It just seems
Yeah.
like what their route they would take, but then they would like immediately be like, ah,
Oh, like,
you know.
yeah. Panic.
But yeah, I think like if I'm being honest, this is probably by far the scariest movie to me that I'm bringing up. Like I think it's by far the scariest movie I have seen. Yeah, and like it's one I think I even like try not to think about as much as possible, and then like because every time if I really am thinking about it, then I'm like, oh my god, that like I can't get it out of my head. Then
That's The Strangers.
The Strangers, yes.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely it's definitely bringing back uh memories of watching this. Yeah, there's plenty of movies like this too, with the like I said, being in a remote location and having people yeah, terrorize you because you're in a vulnerable spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry if I brought that up for anyone who was trying to not thinking about it, but
yeah, trigger warning.
right.
Um,
Um,
Another one I'll just throw
yeah,
in
yeah.
there that freaks me out um, is Hereditary, which
So
I
that's
just
the
saw you
movie
saw.
I was gonna add on my
Okay.
bender, and it's what made me think of this whole topic because I was watching
There we go.
Hereditary this weekend and I was like, this is definitely one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. What are the other ones? Like that'd be fun to talk about. Yes, that
Yeah.
movie is so scary. met
Yes.
all
Yeah.
met all the hype of met all the hype of how scary it was and also how good it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe I was probably completely inaccurate what I said earlier about how I'm not as like into or scared by like some supernatural elements, because there's a lot of that in Hereditary that freaks me out.
Right.
Um, so maybe it's ghosts that I'm not so afraid
Yeah.
of, but shit like this in Hereditary where someone's crawling on the ceiling and they're like uh
Yeah, yeah.
just like barely out of frame, or um
Yeah, what's her name is kind of just like in the corner of the ceiling like ready to pounce there
yeah,
like
that's
it's so
again, that's
fucked up.
someone's sort of behind the character but they don't know it, and just thinking, you know making you look around your shoulder, see what's behind you that you can't see.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and then Tony Collette at the end is like there's like knives being stabbed into her neck, I think,
Yeah.
right? As her neck is
Yeah.
like turning and she's just hanging at the top of the attic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like they were all like I had seen a good amount of the images of this movie before, and I was like, oh yeah, that definitely looks scary. But it's now knowing more so, the context
Yeah.
behind those that now I'm like, okay, I get it now, and the movie does like it is paced like very well, and it does kind of take its time to get into the real horror of it, and it really it builds like a full story before it
Yeah.
flexes its real horror guns at you. But like I think that is also too what makes it so effective for like viewers, especially if you've probably seen this movie before and then you're watching the build up and you know what's coming and stuff like that. Because I was watching it with friends because I did not want to watch this movie by myself. I think that was a good idea. And I was watching them as we were watching, like they kept making like these faces of like angst when nothing was really happening. But I could tell it was because like certain scenes were making them think of future scenes, that are to
Yeah.
come. And I was like, okay, you guys are making me like freak out right now because I'm thinking that like something is about to like jump
Yeah.
out at me and like be terrified.
Yeah. Yeah. It's when you can tell someone else knows something's coming but you don't know what it is.
Exactly,
You just
exactly,
know that it's not good based on the reaction.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a disturbing movie. And who's the director of that?
Ari Aster.
Ari Aster, right? So we did
And
Midsummer too,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and
Another
that's a
one that
big
freaks me out.
film gap I've had now for years. I am so late on Hereditary, and also on Midsummer, and bringing it up now really is like, it doesn't like, it doesn't mean as much because I'm so late on it, but like Ari Aster has been that dude in a way, like these past few years. Ari Aster is like a big household horror name, and so
Yeah,
even though I'm so late, I am happy to like finally go down that road. I've heard Midsummer is not as scary and also not as good, but I'm still very intrigued to see it.
yeah, it's definitely worth seeing. I'd agree that it's not as scary or as good, but there's still like disturbing things that disturb me in it. Along the same lines of Hereditary, where it's like, uh, yeah, I mean Ari Aster, he wants to go all out to
Yeah.
create this feeling in a viewer, and yeah, it's definitely disturbing just in the same way. But yeah. So
Yeah, and
I'm
on
glad you
top of
saw
that,
Hereditary.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say on top of that, like with Hereditary, I feel like it's just that he's going after like very relatable like fear in everyone, where like everyone's just afraid of losing someone, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like taking that baseline of trauma but going full levels with like, I don't know, kind of just very like just psychological and stuff to do with like, and just stuff like a very realistic psychological stuff with like ghosts and people who are beyond the grave and spirits and stuff like that are I don't know, in a way that isn't like where I can't be like, that would happen, you know what I mean? Like I'm not
Yeah,
thinking that really. I'm thinking it more, I'm thinking about it very intellectually and like logically when I'm watching Hereditary, I feel like, and that's what makes it very real and scary.
yeah, yeah. Good point.
But yeah, so Hereditary, yeah, it makes sense that you just brought that up anyway, since I brought out scariest movies ever. I forget if I was gonna bring up another. Oh, I don't know if you got to The Orphan or not.
I didn't know.
Okay, so The Orphan is also one of the scariest movies, like, to me. Mainly just because there is a twist in The Orphan that is so fucking creepy that it just like, it really gives you goosebumps, like when you it's like, for
Wait,
example.
I have a question, and this might be a spoiler. So if you don't want to be spoiled, skip ahead. But is the twist in The Orphan, and maybe I'm thinking of a different movie, is that she's actually like an adult, but she has
Yes, that is the
okay.
twist.
I feel like I
And
have seen it.
yeah, you probably have. It's been out for a
Yeah.
while, and it's a big one. And I don't think we're spoiling too much, especially since the new Orphan just came out, and um in the new Orphan, it is basically a prequel to that, so it's based off of everyone knowing that twist, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
um
Gotcha.
but yes, that is exactly it, and the original very much hinges on that twist and you not knowing that. Yeah, and it, like, how like in Psycho, it's like it kind of, I don't know, one of the big scenes is an exposition scene where the detective, god, whatever the detective name in Psycho
Yeah, who
is,
knows?
he goes like, he's like, Norman eventually became his mother, and he's like, he's just describing everything, like, so the audience catches
Yeah.
up, and it's like very direct exposition, but it's like probably some of the most iconic exposition ever. But it's like, I don't know, when I saw that as a kid, and like even when even now, like it's just like that exposition is very like scary to me, you know, to like discover, to have the plot of like everything just explained in that fashion after you have just seen all this uh unexplained events, you know,
Yeah.
like just to have explained like is kind of creepy. And Orphan has a scene where it's kind of an exposition scene. It's not really where one person's explaining everything, but like it's where you do find out, yes, that like this girl who's been living with them this whole time is secretly like an adult that was like in an insane asylum and has been kind of just been doing this all over like the like country in the world, just been posing as like an
Yeah.
adult and acting like a cute little girl. And like and the whole film you're like thinking, gosh, why is this girl so creepy? You know, she's just
Yeah.
like such a like little girl and she's creeping me out for some reason. And then you find that out later and you're like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
that is the weirdest fucking thing ever. And like, and yeah, and she's also like has motivation to like seduce like fathers basically, because she has always looked like a child, and so she's never really been able to like be with a man, you know, because she's always looked
Yeah.
young. So she like takes the love she gets from fathers who think that, you know, they're her cute daughter, but she like she uses that love as like, oh, I'm going to seduce them now and
Yeah.
make them my own, and like I'm going to be anti the mother and stuff like that and try to turn this family against each other and stuff like that. And so it's like that, along with like from this family's perspective, just like the fact that they thought they had a fucking kid this whole time, like an innocent kid who seems to have a little weird issues, but that's really it, has this whole other like really dark shade to them that you would have never thought, you would have never guessed like at all. Like there's a lot of conflict in the original Orphan that you're like thinking, like that you think, you know, the conflict, you think, you know, that this girl is just like a creepy girl, you know, blah blah blah, and that there's all this, you know, tension like building because of it.
Yeah.
But then once you find out this piece of information and this twist unfolds, it just adds a whole new thing to it. And it's done through like exposition, but it's like kind of like a, it's like, I forget, it's like a detective or like someone who's works at a like therapy clinic or something, or someone at the adoption agency is just like going through like a long list of like paperwork and, you know, like background of this person who's been doing this, and finding out weird stuff like, oh oh my God, I read that she was in this mental hospital in like Europe and she's been bouncing around them all for years. And then it showed like they have pictures of her with like other families and shit like that. And you know, you just see fuck, the actress, fuck, she's so well known, I should have it at the top of my head, Vera Farmiga, finding out like all this information, and be like, oh my God. And like then they cut to the orphan at home, and she's like putting on her like, she doesn't have like her makeup on, so she just looks like an actual just like really short woman and stuff like that. And it's just, yeah, so I
Yeah.
hope I described why this movie is like one of the scariest movies for me.
Fucked up. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad we talked through that because as soon as you started talking about the twist, I was like, I swear I like something that just popped into my head, that was the twist, and then I remembered I had seen it. So
So you've seen Orphan. Got it.
yes.
Got
So
it.
now I need to
Okay.
see the new one for
All
sure.
right.
See
Well,
the new one. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. All right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would have figured you'd seen the original Orphan. It's like a really good movie, and like it definitely, I think like if you bring it up with that, most people, it they'll definitely talk, be like, oh yeah, I liked Orphan, and like they're like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
that was really scary, you know, blah blah blah. And I actually saw it when I was like in 8th grade, and I watched it the same night that I also watched the original Halloween, and I
Ooh.
had never seen that before either. So boy, was that a creepy night for me. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah, that's a really terrifying two movies to watch at the same night,
It
no
really
matter
was.
what age. Yeah.
Yeah, straight up just had like a ton of trouble falling asleep, I remember, because I was juggling between the dude in the white mask who was stalking people and the fucking orphan woman who pretends to be, a little girl. Like, I was also thinking about that on the other side of
Uh-huh.
my brain.
Yeah. That reminds me of have you seen the documentary The Imposter?
I have not.
Do you know about it though?
No, but I have like a
Oh,
feeling of what it's about just by the title name.
yeah, so it's a documentary, true story of not the same level of that, but there was a boy in Texas who went missing. He was like 13 when he went missing, and then he was gone for 3 years. And so when he would have been 16, this is like the early 2000s, some person came back and was found claiming to be this kid. And turns out, and they like believed him because they weren't sure, because they had no idea where he was. Like, the story was like he was kidnapped and taken to like Mexico or something like that. And they don't know like the kind of changes he went through, and like mentally he was so different, but they thought that it was just because he'd been kidnapped for three
Right,
years.
right.
But it turns out it was this Spanish guy in his 30s
Oh my
who
God.
just pretended to be their son. He would look up missing kids
Yeah.
cases like this. And then like he did it multiple times. He would try to pose as their son to convince them that he was them, and he would be like brought into the family. And
Yeah.
it is so, and in the documentary they talk to the guy too, and it's just so
It's like his
bizarre and
perspective.
creepy. Yeah. And it's
And
just
is he a
so
younger
uncomfortable.
looking dude and that's how he's able to pull it off too?
Yeah, he is younger, but then when they reveal that he's like 30 something, it's like, yeah, you could see that too. Like
You can
he
tell he's obviously
yeah,
30, yeah.
like the pictures they showed of like that time, like you could see, like they were probably skeptical of his age, obviously, and skeptical of him, but him being yeah, that old, you know, it was definitely like passable. But yeah,
Right.
basically gave it away. But I mean, they don't like sugarcoat it's not really a twist in the documentary, but they just go through that whole process, and it's just
How long
weird.
did he keep it up for?
I don't remember. um yeah, I'd have to look that up, but it was in the late 90s.
Is it like a horror documentary? Like considered a horror documentary, or is it just like a really real documentary?
I'd say it's not a horror documentary, it's just like a fucked up story, but
Yeah.
it's definitely like I'd say it's also intentionally, trying to make this story like scarier though too.
Yeah, right,
um
right.
yeah, but this guy was just like a serial imposter, just always doing this, like taking on different identities of people who have been missing, and it's just like a wild story.
The
Yeah.
weirdest thing, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
Um
that's The Orphan.
I mean, that's a good segue to Orphan First Kill, which I can talk about with minimal spoilers, since you haven't seen it yet. Because in Orphan First Kill, Esther, the creepy orphan from the first movie, is now our protagonist, which is
Ah,
really fucking weird. You are like
interesting. Yeah.
following her, and it takes place before she poses as, gets
Right.
adopted by the family from the first movie. She does exactly what you are talking about in The Imposter. She poses as a missing kid, um, while she's while we kind of see her like she's kind of in Europe, like she breaks out of a mental institution very like violently, and then she's kind of drifting around Europe, and I think she kind of knows she needs to get out or something like that, so she just sees that she can be taken up by a family who's like been really missing their daughter, and she knows that she kind of looks like her, so she does it. And the mom is played by Julia Stiles, so she meets Julia Stiles, and she's like, oh my god, it's been so long, and she's like, mommy, and it's like so fucking weird. And then she meets the whole family, and of course, and this family is very um I think like the family in the first movie, this is a very well-off family. But without and it kind of starts a little like the first one too, where it's like, oh my god, there's a little things off with her, blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
she's very into the dad. Like the first one, like Esther likes to paint, so she's always painting with the dad, who's like is an artist. But it's really hard to spoil to talk about the rest without the plot, because it takes a very unexpected turn, and the movie is very much not like the first one in that regard because of this unexpected turn. And I would almost argue that this plot choice, I would almost say, is like really downs the quality of this movie and makes it not very scary, and makes it more of it's almost like a situational comedy to me, in a like very fucked up, like dark situation.
Huh.
And it's because of that, like I don't know, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very fun and funny, and it's just like not what you would expect. It's not this movie's not like at all as good as the first, of course, but they're definitely trying to do something interesting with it. I don't know if it totally works at all. I would say it definitely doesn't work, but it's still very funny to watch them go for it. And it's very ridiculous. And so I would say it's just like worth watching for that. It's definitely not, I would say this movie's probably not scary at all, but it's like a good time. It's like
Uh-huh.
funny. It's just like, yeah, it's just like one of those, like it's like there's like a uh point big plot point that I can't give away, that I'm like, wow, I can't believe they decided to go that direction with it, and like, I don't know, commit to it, and like it's just kind of funny what comes out of
Yeah, you piqued my curiosity. I got to see what
it.
this is.
Yeah, it's really weird. So I like, yeah, it's really interesting.
Did you see it in theaters or is it streaming?
And I watched it with the folks when I visited Chicago.
Oh, so is it
It's
streaming somewhere then?
I think we
Or rented it?
yeah, probably rented it. Yep. Probably
Gotcha.
rented it.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely want to check that out.
Um I don't know if there's no other movies to bring up for, like, I don't know, what we consider the scariest. We can move into the bender. I guess one more. I could just throw this out there because I've talked about it before in detail a lot, I think. But I do think Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me is one of the scariest films.
Yeah.
And I watched it once alone late at night in my parents' basement, and I definitely regretted it.
I think you might have talked to me about that before. Yeah,
I think
watching that.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, David
Because I was like,
Lynch
I gotta watch
also.
it. This movie's so good. But then I watched, I
Yeah.
was like, oh my god, I forgot this is like the scariest Lynch movie probably, and I just decided
Yeah.
to watch it by myself in the dark.
Yeah, David Lynch movies are very scary to me. And even like the tamest episode of Twin Peaks still just creeps me out a
Yeah.
lot. So yeah, that's a good one. I also thought of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That
Yeah,
one
yeah.
is very scary as well.
Yeah, that's incredibly, yeah, that when I'm watching it, I don't know, I feel like my hair like standing up and I'm like sweating just from the overall intensity and yeah,
Yeah,
that's probably the best horror movie, I would say, if I'm speaking objectively on like if I was saying, oh, these are the objective best horror movies, it's Texas Chainsaw and like Halloween and like The Shining, if we're gonna go
yeah,
just like objectively the best ones.
yeah. Those are definitely like sort of the pinnacle, like the early big influential horror movies.
Yeah. And then out of those three, Texas Chainsaw is the scariest one probably. So then,
Yeah, I'd
I would give
agree.
it to Texas Chainsaw. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, should we move on to horror bender then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So I'll start off with this October. I've been trying to get more into some smaller horror movies that I haven't seen. Maybe some more B movies or lesser known ones, or like ones from sort of campy ones from the '80s that I wasn't an '80s kid, so I didn't so I haven't,
Didn't
haven't
have the
seen yet.
chance. Right.
Um, but yeah, so one of them is Society, which is Brian Yuzna, who also did some of the Reanimator sequels, and Reanimators is a great '80s horror movie as well. But Society is about this sort of elitist cult in Southern California that this like high school kid discovers is going on of all these people that he knows.
Um,
But it's like a funny. This also would fit into the horror comedy category.
right,
Um,
right.
it's also very funny, and then so it's pretty obvious that there's like a cult in town. People are acting strange, and he's getting to the bottom of it. And when you see what these people do in
Okay.
their like on their rich people sex cult, I can't even
Yeah.
describe. I couldn't even spoil it because I can't even put it into words what they do and what you see. But it is a really fucking weird, really good and like funny horror movie from the '80s that really utilizes like practical effects uh, really well. Yeah, the effects are so good, but it's so like of its time.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's almost like Eyes Wide Shut meets The Thing meets I don't know. You could say something else, but like
Okay.
in terms of like the practical effects and sort of weird, I don't know, crazy. Yeah, I can't even describe it. It's just yeah, it gets really weird. But yeah, I liked it a lot. It's a campy '80s horror movie,
No, yeah,
um,
that sounds
but
good.
also genuinely scary and creepy.
Yeah. An orgy cult in Beverly Hills. Like, how could I
Yeah,
not check
yeah,
that out? Yeah, from the 80s.
yeah. So that's Society.
That's actually like I don't know, that couldn't be almost a more perfect transition for my movie. And you brought up Reanimator, which is apparently like I've never seen Reanimator, but apparently it's in the like kind of in the genre of like movie that I saw. Like what would you say the genre of Reanimator is, John? Since you've seen it apparently.
Yeah, I love Reanimator. I'd say, I mean, it's also like a horror comedy, but it uses, I don't know what the term would be.
Is it
Like
like
it's
body dysmorphia or something? Or
body,
like
maybe body horror would be.
yeah. Okay.
Actually, body horror is probably a pretty apt description for both
Body
Reanimator
horror.
and Society. Yeah, because
Okay.
it's a
Got it.
lot of yeah, it's a lot of like practical effects with the body and
Right. Okay.
weird, yeah, like weird. It's not like creatures and stuff like the thing. That was probably a bad connection, but
Okay.
yeah, body horror. I would, yeah, that's
Gotcha.
probably
All right. Well, all right. Thanks for clarifying because now I
it.
know that I am sticking in the same genre of
All
horror then
right.
with my movie. We are not going anywhere. Now I know exactly too what a society is about. Because all right, my movie is, and I'll just say what movie it is, and then we'll cut, I guess, for
Yeah.
the transition. But I am talking about Frankenhooker.
Oh man, I saw that you watched this, and I this one's been on my list.
Frankenhooker is a film by Frank Henenlotter, who is known for horror comedies, or as he would prefer to call them, exploitation movies. He has made the film Basket Case, Brain Damage, Basket Case 2 and 3, a movie called Bad Bio, and of course Frankenhooker, which is a movie about a medical student dropout who loses fiance in a lawnmower incident and decides to bring her back to life. Um, and so this main character, who's played by, I believe, James Lawrence, is kind of this like mad scientist, almost, if you will, that is living in his mom's garage and doing these just really bizarre experiments with bodies, and is always like doing very like kind of gross stuff with like women's bodies, like always has like parts of them chopped up in his garage, and like he always has the head of his former fiance in there, and he's just really working to pair body parts with her to bring her back to life, and it's kind of his main project. But it does seem like all this body stuff is very much his area of expertise, like he does it all the time, and like that bringing her back to life with the correct body parts is like just the project, that he's
Yeah,
been building to this whole time. And it is like, don't get me wrong, it is very fucked up to watch him do all this stuff. And but like you said, like the like effects are very practical. So you see a lot of like very fake looking body parts around that are like bloody, and it kind of adds to the, I don't know, the ridiculousness and the humor of this whole thing. And I think despite like the fact that this character is very creepy and like weird, obviously, and his whole life is fucked up as hell, I don't know, you're not like, you're not turned off by any of it and how weird and gross it is, specifically because, at least I wasn't turned off by it, specifically because the movie is very funny and very much plays on just the ridiculousness of this whole thing, and keeps the tone for the most part, I feel like light, around everything he's doing. Like the character ends up going to New York to find, like he goes to find hookers to match with his fiance, who he's going to bring back from the dead. And so he's on the street like picking them out, and they're all like, aren't you going to have a are you going to have a party, like how many do you want? And like he's like, I am going to need a whole bunch of you, or something like that. Yeah, they're like, oh wow, what a crazy party this is gonna be. You better have some money. And he's like, oh, I have money. And then he's like, brings them all back eventually, and there's like this great montage where he's like measuring them all, and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, this is just perfect. Like these thighs are just perfect. You know what I mean? And they're all kind of expecting him to be just like this, I don't know, weird sex fiend who's like
yeah,
trying to find the right girl to have sex with, but he's really like going to like, you trying to use all of them in like different, parts. He's really like a lunatic. And eventually it builds to him bringing her back, but she, like his fiance, but she's in this weird like place because she like wakes back up and she's like, I've got all these different women in me, I feel so strange, like. And she's kind of walking around always like almost like a Terminator that is like a hooker, you know? She's like on the streets in New York, and she's just like, she has all this like super strength because like she has all these women's bodies in her, and then he's out like looking for her, you know, and stuff like that. So yeah, it takes a few weird turns to say the least. And it was definitely I've definitely never seen a movie like this at all, especially since like I said, I haven't seen Reanimator, and like so, and that was what I was told is like the main thing you could compare that to. And so not only just the tone of this and like the plot of this was all unexpected, it was just like I'd never seen anything like it. And like how you were trying to describe your film in like this meets this, I would say, like, because it is so weird, I would say this is kind of like, it has like Taxi Driver in it, because like I
Mm.
felt like it was a very street movie of New York, and there was a lot of
It looks like it.
prostitutes in it, and like yeah, it's like a very good New York street movie. And then at the same time, like I felt like it had a little of like Terminator 1 in it because of like the way his fiance ends up being. But then it also felt like, I don't know, like a Cronenbergy in a way or something like that. Like also like I was getting like the Fly vibes or something like that. It was just, yeah, well, it was just such a unique movie.
Wow, yeah. I'm mad I haven't watched this yet because I remember like making sort of a list on Letterboxd of movies I want to watch this month, horror movies I want to watch. This I just had never heard of before, but looked at it, and so it was recommended on something, maybe on Letterboxd, I don't know, and it just looked like a body horror movie, kind of like Reanimator or something that would be just
Right.
really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm excited to see this one. I'll definitely watch this one in the next few days, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's like a full-on horror comedy that we could have had like on our last episode, I feel like, you know, it could have been featured on there like for sure.
this is also on Peacock, right?
I
Did you
think
watch it
I
on Peacock?
watched it. I forget where I watched it. I don't think we rented. It might have been,
Because I think
no,
it's
it was on Amazon Prime, but it was with
it was on Prime.
my brother Jake's Shutter extension. So that's how I
Oh,
watched
okay,
it. Yeah,
gotcha. I
right.
think it might be on Peacock too, which I was just gonna mention. I think Peacock has a pretty solid
It does.
horror
It does. Yes.
horror batch, I guess I should say. But yeah, we just have Peacock through our like internet with Xfinity. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah, I've
People
been
seem to be
like
able to get
taking
Peacock so
advantage of
easily
that.
just for random
Yeah,
moments. They're like, here, I'll just grab Peacock right now for the moment. You know,
they're
I've
just
it's
giving it
happened a
away.
couple times.
Yeah. But yeah, the movie I just talked about, Society, I think was on there, and then Frankenhooker, and then the next one that I'll bring up was on Peacock, and it's from 1979 called Tourist Trap.
Tourist
Um,
trap.
yeah, this is another one. It looks like producer Jake has seen it as well. It's another one I didn't know like anything about, and I was just looking more into it, and it seems like a fun, interesting, different horror movie, and it is. It's basically I think they're these teenagers or like early 20s people. They get stranded, sort of out in the middle of nowhere, and there's this like roadside carnival type or like house fair thing. What is it? Museum, I guess is what they call it.
Yeah.
And it's just run by this one quirky old guy, and there he
Mr.
has,
Slauson.
yeah, Mr. Slauson, yeah, and he just has like all these mannequins everywhere, and it's just a very eccentric, weird like estate that he has, and yeah, and the mannequins, as it says in the plot, the museum is run by him and populated by his collection of supernatural mannequins. So the mannequins, as you can kind of imagine, and seeing poster two like come to life, and it's very very scary and creepy.
Mm.
This is actually uh um this is another like weird maybe aspect of horror movies that freaks me out, but like an inanimate object that is shaped like to look like a real thing, but it's not a real thing.
Hmm.
Like House of Wax or something like that, where like mannequins coming to life or like the living doll or something. There's a Twilight Zone episode of these mannequins that like come to life in this store, and it's very like just creepy and weird. And yeah, that's kind of what this one is. But it's like a teen slasher movie, but also yeah, it just has such like that 70s horror movie style to it too.
Nice,
So yeah,
nice.
this is
No, I
a
could see
solid
myself
movie.
getting into something like this, like a bunch of creepy mannequins. Like sounds like a real fear as well.
Yeah, and yeah, when they like move and and everything, it's scary. Yeah, they look really scary too. So yeah, that's Tourist Trap. Um,
Nice. All right, my next one is one I think that you watched recently too, and we were also talking about this director, Jeff Baena, last episode, right?
mhm,
Or maybe the episode before that. Because I
yeah.
watched, yeah, he stayed in my mind a little bit enough for me to watch Life After Beth with
Oh,
Aubrey
nice.
Plaza and John C. Riley and Molly Shannon and Cheryl Hines and Paul Reiser. A lot of
Yeah, I
people in
watched that a
this.
few weeks ago too.
Nice, yeah, yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. This movie is it's pretty good.
Hmm.
I think first of all, uh, Aubrey Plaza in it is a zombie, except it's basically like played as in like I don't know. It's more like I noticed that every especially since we have a zombie movie today, every like zombie movie tends to have its own like rule book, on what this zombie is gonna
Yeah,
be like.
yeah,
Aubrey Plaza is kind of played. It's kind of played a certain way as to how she's a zombie. I feel, yeah, like she's first off, she's still a very aware human at the same time. She's kind of
yeah,
almost like half zombie,
yeah. It's definitely its own sort of version of zombie, kind of similar to Frankenhooker in the sense of a guy loses his girlfriend and then
Yeah,
she comes
exactly.
back
Right,
to life
right,
in a certain way.
right.
Yeah,
And it's kind of like played off of like I don't know everyone's. It's very like what if, it's like very everyone's point of view, like from the guy's point of view, like what if your girlfriend came back as a zombie? How long would you hold on to her? Like would
uh,
you see the signs? Like, how would the parents handle it? It's like I don't know, it's like kind of it's very much trying to be like comedic for like a situation based in reality. And I think the script is okay. I think that the actors in this movie are a lot better than the script for this movie is. I think this is fun. Don't get me wrong, but I do think it's. I don't know. There were times where I was like, this is a little, this is like a little ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, and I know it's
yeah,
supposed to be ridiculous, but I didn't feel like it was ridiculous always in a good way necessarily, like the way Frankenhooker is. But I did for the most part like this, and especially since John C. Riley is the dad and Molly Shannon's the mom, just makes it all the more fun to watch. And I do think Aubrey Plaza is also like definitely fit to play a zombie as
yeah,
well.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel similarly to Life After Beth. To compare it to the other Jeff Dana movie that I've seen, Spin Me Round, they both have things that I like in them that I'm like on board with, think is either funny or just an interesting story. But then they also both are just really missing sort of something to really hook me into
Right.
the whole vibe of the movie and what's going on. And I think yeah, like the setups for both of those movies I found really interesting and was into. But yeah, it's just not really. There's something missing that's making me care enough about what's going on,
Mm,
and finding it as amusing as I think it's supposed to
right.
be or meaning to be.
Yeah, I think what Life After Beth kind of builds to in the end is sort of worth it, like where she's kind of burning the house down and she's lost it, she's terrorizing everyone, and John C. Riley's like, "Oh my God, this is what we didn't want to happen," or something like that. Like I think it builds to it good, but I just felt like the journey along the way got a little tiresome.
Yeah,
Eventually Aubrey Plaza gets very jealous that her boyfriend's speaking to Anna Kendrick, and she's like, "Who is this?" Like, and and it's like, all right, I mean, you were like just like eating him in the scene prior to this,
yeah,
like, like it just it takes a little, the plot like unfolds, like, I think fairly slowly, maybe. I'm not sure, I
yeah.
forget
No,
what,
I agree with
like,
that. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, and like I think a lot of the stuff, especially at the beginning with the parents, even though it is John C. Riley and Molly Shannon, is very ridiculous when John C. Riley, like, he's like, the son's like losing his mind that Aubrey Plaza's back, and John C. Riley's like, "What do we want to tell you? She just came back." Like, and like the whole, like, the way they're kind of withholding all this zombie stuff is like a little obvious maybe, and a little tedious, I guess.
yeah. I enjoyed watching it overall, but it just kind of confirms my prior like suspicions of Jeff
You're
Bezos
con-
that I
you're my suspicions of
yeah
Jeff Bana. I
that
don't trust
I
that Jeff Bana, that's for
yeah
sure.
I can like get on board with this stuff, but it just doesn't really I don't know, it doesn't really hook me in. Um,
Yeah. The
yeah,
ideas don't entirely follow through.
I think I'll just bring up like one more. I'll go with this one because I didn't like it as much as the other one I was thinking about, but it's more interesting to bring up. I watched Dracula AD 1972,
Ooh, pretty
and
crazy.
if you're
What
not
a
familiar with
flex of a
this,
movie to break out.
yeah, yeah. So this is so there's several movies where Christopher Lee plays Dracula and Peter Cushing is Van Helsing.
Yeah.
And this is one of them, but this one is set in 1972. So I first became aware of this on Twitter. So someone shared someone constructed a trailer out of clips from this movie into like a 70s crime series, like promo. And it looks so good that I was like, I gotta see what this movie is. And it had friggin' Count Dooku and Grand Moff Tarkin in it. uh,
I can't help
so
myself.
yeah, I had to see what was going on with them back in 1972. Um, and yeah, so it's I think this is another one where uh, I'm really interested in what this looks like, and sort of the style of it, like this 70s, like it's very 70s, uh,
Yeah.
and it's like combining sort of the yeah, just like the Dracula story into that, but this is like the granddaughter of Van Helsing, and the grandson and the great granddaughter. Something like Peter Cushing plays both Van Helsing, Dr. Van Helsing from like the 1800s, and his grandson in like
Got it.
present day 1972.
Got it.
That's kind of
Okay.
confusing. But yeah, it's the same Dracula, and yeah, it's just like I think an interesting story or take on
Yeah, yeah, because it's
Dracula.
always during the same time, and they make it over and over again during the
Yeah,
same time. Why not see it in a modern urban environment? Yeah.
yeah, and it involves like teenagers, um sort of like 70s horror tropes, like teenagers sort of getting up to no good, you know messing with black magic or something, to to summon Dracula back. So it's cool. It incorporates this old classic horror tale, but also infuses just the 70s into it, and it looks a
Right,
lot
right,
like
right.
I don't know if you've ever seen this show, The Prisoner. This is like
I have not.
it's an old English show. I just found out about this last year because a friend of mine used to live in England, and this is like a super big show back in the day. But it's like a late 60s, early 70s British series, where it's sort of a mystery, similar, just like early 70s, late 60s look to it, and so it just like reminds me of that. So yeah, I was really in on it because it reminded me of that show, and everything. And I think maybe in the end it really didn't play into that sort of campy 70s like horror tropes or even just like style enough, because I thought that's what it really had going for it. But I still liked it overall and still thought it was a fun movie. But yeah, it's Dracula 80 1972. Yeah, it's an interesting one to see for sure.
Yeah, I definitely want to see that a lot, along with I don't know if we did the Herzog one. Did we?
Yes, we did. Yeah,
We
yeah,
might have,
with
and it might have
Klaus
been my
Kinski, right?
favorite. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but it might have been one of my favorite ones.
Yeah,
But
we talked
yeah, no,
about that,
that's
and we talked about Coppola's um,
right. Yeah.
Dracula. Yeah,
No, that sounds really cool. I like, yeah, for some reason, it's just so fun to watch this story over and over again and see what they do
yeah,
with it. And this sounds like it definitely do, like, even just in the title, they're trying to be different with it. And
yeah.
that's cool. All right. My last movie it'll be rounding out something that we've talked about before. It'll be rounding out David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy. Halloween, I mean, obviously we're rounding it out because it's called Halloween Ends, with
That's right.
the same cast except for Judy Greer, because she was murdered in the last one. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, I do recall us thoroughly discussing Halloween Kills last year, so I think it's only fitting we discuss the follow up. This for the follow up to that one this year. Yeah, so Halloween Ends, I'd say right off the bat, I did not like it, but I disliked it less than Halloween Kills, and that'd be the starting point for talking about it, I guess.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I saw you gave it a pretty bad rating on Letterboxd. So I was wondering if this was your least favorite of these.
If I disliked it more.
Yeah.
Well, I gave the other ones a bad rating too, so that's
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
that's the scale is low,
Yeah. Out of these, I think the 2018 one was probably the best. I think
the best, yeah.
everyone would agree on that. But I didn't hate Halloween Ends. I thought it was definitely very ridiculous and comical. Like I've seen everybody talk about how they basically wanted to make this movie like it was still the 70s or 80s, like people using the same, doing the same things, like not taking advantage as much of modern technology when this is. And yeah, so there's a lot of like weird things that just don't really uh, make any sense or aren't that interesting, but I think I liked that it did something different than just the typical
Right.
like Michael Myers is hunting Laurie down, or anyone, like just that, like it took a different turn and incorporated like another person being inspired by him in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's definitely an interesting idea for it. I mean, like they're trying to do something different with each one of these. It seems now like Halloween Kills was like, what if we, the people, we strike back at him,
Evil
We
dies
fight
tonight.
we fight back at them, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And this one is like, what if it's not about Michael Myers as much, but really about like who he like inspires and whatnot. And I'm all for that. It's just one, I don't like a Halloween movie where Michael Myers is like barely in it. I found that very bizarre, and especially because of that, I didn't find the movie like to be scary really ever. I don't think it was ever scary, and I found myself a little just confused and frustrated watching just this guy date Jamie Lee Curtis's granddaughter and just watch their like love story. And I'm like, okay, I don't. And I was like, all right, I don't care about this. I know
Yeah,
I
that
don't.
was
Just like,
bullshit.
let's
Yeah.
get to the point, like of this,
Yeah.
And it takes up most of the movie is the thing. Like, it's not like, oh, that's just act one. It's like act one and two is that. I didn't buy that, like, she didn't really see. I mean, maybe I did. I don't know. Like, I also just thought, like, God, why is she into him so much?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
I didn't
No,
I didn't
that's so
really get
stupid.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't really find. I don't think they really sold the audience correctly on like, oh, that she should have common ground with him because everyone thinks she killed someone. That he
Yeah.
killed someone. Like, I didn't really buy that. And also, like, at the beginning, like, I think we do see, oh yeah, he did kill that kid, so like he is a killer, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't find there to be layers to it that much. um
Yeah.
I did find it fun when you like there is the reveal that he's, oh my god, he's sneaking into the sewers to see Michael Myers for
Yeah.
some reason.
And they're
And
battling then.
yeah, and I was like, wait, how do yeah, eventually they're battling, yeah. And I was like, wait, how does this like and then I just had so many questions. I was like, wait, how does this work? Like, how does he have this relationship with Michael Myers?
Yeah.
How the hell did that happen? A guy whose whole like thing is that he doesn't have a relationship with anybody, you know what I mean? Like, how is this whole thing work? How is he able to go down in the sewer to see him and then leave and then go see the granddaughter again? Like, I don't, like,
Yeah.
I just found that really weird.
I feel like
um
they tried to like justify that with like certain moments where like Michael observes him doing something and it's like helping him in a way.
right,
Like
yeah,
I feel like there's some moment where someone's like attacking Michael and then he kills them for
right, there is,
Michael.
yeah, there is,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's just, yeah, it's still bizarre because it's like Michael Myers isn't like a understanding
Nah, yeah.
person. He's not gonna be like, oh, finally someone gets me. Like
Yeah,
he's not
exactly. Is
thinking
that what it
that.
is? I don't know.
Yeah.
Was he using the kid to get to Lori or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah.
I don't
True.
know.
Yeah.
We don't know because the movie doesn't really explain it. The storytelling's very haphazard. So that's one of the things I didn't like about it. But the problem is like that thing I didn't really like is pretty much the whole, like the whole movie.
Yeah.
I did like when like he gets mad at Michael like in the climax, and they kind of like zoom out and you're kind of looking through that tunnel view and the two are just like fighting in there. I thought that was kind of cool and kind of funny.
It's like Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
You
yeah, a
know.
little bit, a little bit. And he takes the mask and he doesn't do. I mean, he kills some people with it. He definitely goes on a bit of a rampage, but he gets like stopped, by Jamie Lee Curtis eventually, of course. And I think I found also the drama between Jamie Lee and the granddaughter to be a little tiresome. I didn't totally buy that either, as she was trying to, like, I get that she wants to leave, and I guess Lori wants to keep her what's left of her family together, so I guess that
Yeah.
makes sense too. But then at the end, to, I don't know, have to make it seem like Jamie Lee Curtis killed this boy, like, it was a little much.
Yeah.
um and I mean, I think the main thing of the movie I really like is the end. I did find it funny watching them basically pin Michael Myers
Yeah.
on the kitchen counter and just drain the fluid of blood from him and do everything in their power to murder
Knock the
him.
fridge down on him.
Yeah, like literally recklessly just like, let's take everything in our house and just smash him with,
Yeah.
like, let's knife him all over his body. Like, let's just, like, oh, let's slit his wrists now.
Let's
Now we'll
really
slit
be
his
sure that he's
throat.
dead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, as a viewer, what you've always kind of wanted. You're like, why do they always have to let him live? Just cut his head off.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
all that stuff. And then at the end, they like put him through the meat cellar smasher thing, which
They don't do
you've
any
kind
like there's no investigation, there's no like this is a serial killer for like
right,
decades who's
right,
been
right, right,
just like you know just running unhinged, killing people for
right,
decades.
right,
We're
right.
not gonna like try and do any, yeah,
No forensics. Yep, no forensics left.
just stick him in the
Will
fucking meat grinder. Yeah.
Will Patton lets it happen. Yeah. Well, I think the argument for that could be made by fans that they I don't know. I think they were just trying to do something different, and I think in almost every Halloween movie, he is left in a cell for her forensic purposes, and then you see at the beginning of the next movie he gets up again, and everyone's like, well, why do they let him stay alive? So I think they're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
trying to do that differently in this, at least, I guess. But yeah, I forget what, like, afterwards, what really the ending is after they just chop him to bits. I don't know
Yeah, I
if you
don't
do.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's pretty much the end there. I forget if it ends like somewhat optimistically. I know. I think like Jamie Lee is just kind of like writing in her book like
That's it. She's finishing her
evil.
book. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like evil. Like does like I don't know. She has some profound thing to say. Like evil does morph into something else, and it does stick around and like ends her book in just some way like that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely how it ends. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not a good movie. Um yeah,
Yeah.
but there are
Yeah.
things that I enjoyed about it in an ironic way.
Right.
I
Right.
guess. And one thing too that you were talking about, the just like, why are these people together? This guy and
Yeah.
Jamie Lee
Yeah.
Curtis's
Yeah.
granddaughter, like this couple makes no sense. They're so
Right.
weird. And it's also when they're like at that restaurant, like a diner or something, sitting across from each other, and her ex-boyfriend or ex-husband or whatever, whoever comes by, and he's like 20 years older than both of them, and he's like this like really like
Oh
man,
yeah.
this really like he's a man's man type guy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now she's like with the opposite, which I guess, yeah, you could say like, oh, she
I'm
just
with the
wanted,
sensitive type now.
yeah, she wanted the sensitive, but this guy is just so, these guys are just so
Right.
different from each other that you can't even picture her with this ex-boyfriend. And he's just like a
Yeah.
bully, like he's just there like in like a old
Yeah.
movie, like,
He's like
hey, what are you
harassed.
doing
Well, he's
here?
like playing pool with the guys over there, and then
Yeah, yeah,
or they're like eating a breakfast with like 8 other construction workers over there. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
such an old movie thing.
And he's just like
And then he
busting their
comes over and he's
balls.
like, "What are you guys doing here?"
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Oh, what are
like,
you
I'm gonna,
sad? You killed somebody and you're sad? Is that it? Yeah,
yeah,
he's just
yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
douchebag.
Right.
It's just so
Yeah,
weird. Yeah.
just starts harassing her pretty much. Yeah, I don't remember him in the first movie or the second movie, so I don't know if they just threw him in there or something.
Yeah,
Or
I don't either. Yeah. Well, that's
yeah, and it is weird too. One more thing, like before we wrap up, like how also this guy, I don't know the logic behind this kid, like he's like a killer and he worships Michael Myers, but he's also like able to talk to his girlfriend like normally and somewhat like stands up for himself normally, and he's like calling her and going like, we're getting away tonight, we're gonna
yeah, yeah.
leave all of this, and he has like ambitions like a regular human to like like just leave like your home behind and just escape, like a very regular human being thing that we all feel. I just like don't get this guy at all. Like
Yeah.
they kind of shift him between regular dude to like mass murderer like that, and I don't really
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah, that's another good point. Because he is completely psychotic.
I guess I just wish that the character had a little more like inner conflict that I saw, maybe that was explored more, or just like I don't know, a weird like dual personality psychotic thing. I don't know, something just like a little more than what I got, from this guy.
Yeah, yeah, I could. That's fair. Um, I did think he had a lot of internal conflict
That's true.
with
He that's
himself.
the that's a lot of the movie.
Yeah, but it's like go kind of basic with it. Not into.
Right, exactly.
I feel like, and maybe I'm not remembering it 100% correctly, but I feel like it's more of like selfish reasons that he is so conflicted and messed up now is because of how people treat him, not because he feels guilty that he accidentally killed a kid. If that makes
Yeah, that
sense.
which is what I wish, because there's like an inciting incident, that's what it's all about. So they
Yeah,
don't really they don't really like explore that.
yeah, yeah. It seems like he's more so just upset about how people perceive him rather than dealing with
Yeah.
the trauma of accidentally killing someone who you're tasked with, yeah, having
Right.
responsibility over. So, yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's a fair point.
But
Yeah,
yeah, we've now finished up that Halloween trilogy. So yeah, I mean, there's not much left to say about. They are always fun to talk about because they're usually very ridiculous. So I don't know. I think at the very least, I would like to thank, even though they kind of fucked these movies up. I would like to thank the makers behind them for at least giving me like I don't know some fun, stupid horror movies to watch and talk about every year. Because
yeah,
I've always been able to count on it.
something to look forward to. That's what they're giving us. Well, yeah. Should we now get into Korean horror?
Yeah. So that yeah, our this wasn't
Sorry.
brought up because we were talking about coyotes and uh orphans earlier.
The two scariest things in the world.
Yeah, for sure. But our topic of the day is actually Korean horror. And it's definitely something I am not an expert on. My brother Jake was gonna be here for this episode, but he's got some life things going on, so he wasn't. He's unfortunately unable to be here, and he was supposed to be kind of like our Korean horror expert for the day. But it's all right. John and
Unfortunately,
I.
Jake was killed by coyotes.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. So he won't be joining us, but yeah,
He was killed by coyotes until his next episode with that
yeah. And
will
then
be out
we'll bring him back to
31st.
life, Frankenhooker
Right.
style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Frankenhooker style. So our three movies of the day are Train to Busan, Thirst by the infamous Park Chan-Wook, and Terror Train. Wait, that's not right at all. It's not
But
Terror Train.
no, yeah, yeah, I was like, wait, that's not the title of it. It's like,
It's
oh,
the
maybe that's a different
Wailing.
version. Yeah.
I watched the different version.
The direct Korean translation is actually Terror Train. For English audiences, they call it the Wailing.
Wailing in English is Terror Train.
Yeah.
Terror Train is actually a horror movie in 1980 that I watched, but with Jamie Lee Curtis. I watched it right
Not
before this
Korean.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Jamie
Yeah.
Lee is actually a common Korean name, so maybe you could possibly see maybe there's a Korean Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you have a preference on which one we start with and end with? I don't. I personally
um,
don't.
do you want to start with the Wailing?
All right. Yeah, sure. Let's just get it out of the way. Okay, so The Wailing is a 2016 film directed by Na Hong Jin. It's a strange. The plot is a stranger arrives in a little village, and soon after, a mysterious sickness starts spreading. A policeman is drawn into the incident and is forced to solve the mystery in order to save his daughter. So basically, there's a giant, scary illness spreading around this town, and this police detective ends up he's very much in over his head with this outbreak, and is trying to figure this out, and is meanwhile just witnessing a bunch of fucked up things, and it eventually is spreading towards his family, and this ends up being like an inner kind of family but I don't know, kind of tragedy and drama thing, as he's like trying to now have to deal with it in his own family. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like an underlying theme throughout of this paranoid father wanting to protect his children and his family, and being very stressed and anxious
Yeah.
for a lot of it. And yeah, these strange things keep happening, strange things you see, and throughout the movie, it's just like as it unravels, it doesn't really clear things up in a very straightforward way. Like it's kind of teasing you with
No,
different
definitely
things,
not.
and
Yeah.
so it's hard for you to piece together who is what are they doing, what is someone controlling them to do this. There's so much like mystery around some of these characters, but I was also surprised about how like funny it was at times,
It was like a lot
subtly.
of the anxiety that the specifically the detective has about the
Yeah,
outbreak is kind of very goofy, and he's kind of like very lovably relatable in that regard. And
the way
I
he
found
bickers
that
with his wife all the time
right.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. The dialogue at times is very unique and not what you'd expect. I found that very enjoyable. And is makes it the all the more sad when it ends up being his daughter, right? That is
yeah,
that has become
like possessed,
infected,
or
infected or
yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, he's like he knows how deadly it is because he's seen everything on you know in the out in the streets of this, and he knows what he has to do, but he's clearly trying to go against that. And eventually it builds towards like a very much some reminiscent of the exorcism, as they bring someone over to try to spiritually get rid of this the infection that's within her, and that it gets very very intense.
Yes, that's like it's almost like 10 minutes long of just
Yeah, yeah,
the ritual. Yeah, it's very chaotic and loud, and not really sure what's going on, and the girl's just like in pain the whole time, and it's cutting to the Japanese man who came to the village. It's cutting to him performing some ritual. uh yeah, that's a very disturbing part. Oh, but yeah, it's yeah, I mean, it's showing like this family going to every length to like make sure she's okay, and then it just like elevates how much they just like the paranoia that they live in when nothing seems to work and these things keep happening,
right, right.
and then things are conveniently missing and inexplicable. Yeah, I guess I don't know how much to bounce around here, but for sure one of the scariest things I've seen in recent memory is towards the end when the Japanese man sort of reveals who he is in a way. I don't know how much to
Yeah,
give away or to jump to
yeah,
this
yeah,
part, but
yeah.
when he's taking pictures of the priest or whatever, and he's slowly lowering his camera, and you see him as this. We've dabbled in spoilers already, so skip ahead. But then he turns into this demon, like devil creature, and that is just terrifying. Like that that image of him has stuck in my head every day since I
Oh
watched this.
man. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, it hasn't for me, and I think that means that I
Wow.
wasn't being attentive enough. And so I think I should like, yeah, revisit that just so because I feel like that means I didn't take away was that what I was supposed to take away.
That scene was the most intense one for me. Like the scariest moment, for sure for me, was that sort of slow, haunting reveal, which also it tells you something, but it also isn't super clear. Um,
Like yeah, like
it's
the
also
rest of it.
very
Yeah.
fairly ambiguous. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked the Wailing. I thought
Yeah.
it was just absolutely unpredictable, and like gripping the same way. Like I
Yeah.
just I wanted to figure out what was going on, what was happening, and who was what, and what certain certain things mean, and symbolism of all these random little details
Mhm.
from the movie too.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, overall, there's just a lot going on in the
Yeah,
Wailing for sure. A lot more than I expected, and yeah, and it almost like drew the line. Like sometimes with Eastern cinema, I think, okay, this is either gonna be like an actiony, very actiony thing, or I'm thinking this is gonna be a very like very calming melodrama, and this kind of blurred the lines between those two, and so it was definitely like unlike a movie I've seen before, from Eastern cinema, and definitely would have to like I said, I didn't even get that one scene, so I would definitely have to like rewatch again and like piece some of this together. Like I even tried to read some reviews like before this because I was like, gosh, man, the Wailing, I don't know how am I gonna talk about the Wailing,
yeah,
and because it really did leave me like it did leave me thinking like I have to sit with this one. But then I read the reviews and I found myself a little more confused. So
yeah.
I think I think it was just like a little like something that was a little more out of left field for me, but I did like it, and I found it to be definitely a very quality film that was like very scary and had you feeling a lot of different emotions at the same time, and definitely someone with a unique, very unique vision.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I like the Wailing a lot. Thought it was something different, and yeah, this was a good pick from producer Jake.
yeah. I think as we go on, we'll like be able to encapsulate more of the genre as a
Yeah,
whole. But I think we're good to move on
maybe go. So that
next.
came out in 2016. We can go with the other movie
Yeah,
that
let's
came
do
out in
that.
2016, Train to Busan, which is directed by Yeon Sang Ho, who um, I guess the only other thing he'd be known for is doing the sequel to Train to Busan, which came out maybe last year or 2 years
Yeah,
ago. But yeah, I remember this movie being recommended a lot
same,
when it came
same.
out. Yeah, yeah, this was sort of a um, one of those movies. It's like, oh, what's the best movie that maybe haven't seen, and someone recommend like this because it's Korean and not in the
Not everyone
American
sees it.
mainstream. Yeah,
Yeah. And like even I remember even I think my family, like my parents and maybe my uncle and also watched this,
hmm
which like shows that it did reach a lot of people, cuz not saying that my family like doesn't like watch like variety necessarily, but I do think there are a lot of movie nights where I see my family watching another like they're like, "Oh yeah, we're watching the new Sly Stallone flick." It's like, how, how often can you keep watching these guys' movies? You know what I mean? And that
yeah,
is like one of the most American actors you can watch. So I don't think like I think for them to watch a foreign flick is a big deal, and it doesn't happen very often. So
hmm
uh like definitely like when I heard they were watching Train to Busan, I was like, dang, dude, I haven't even watched Train to Busan, and like I had definitely like definitely heard a lot about this, and I just assumed it must be this must be just a very crazy balls to the wall zombie movie. And it is. And it is on a train, and I happen to love movies on it that are on a train. I don't know if you know this. First thing I tell people, John. But like I love Tony Scott's Unstoppable. I love Snowpiercer. I think movies on a train are great. I think The Polar Express is not good, but that's for a different episode.
Doesn't
Because I could.
deserve the train movie
Nah, yeah, it
status.
doesn't. It doesn't deserve it. Yeah, they ruined a good thing. Yeah, they could have gone all in with it. But yeah, I think this like yeah, it's zombies on a train. We haven't seen that yet. And it's very well done. There's a lot of great action sequences with it. A lot of great chase scenes. A lot of and it is balls to the wall. Like we said with Life After Beth, each zombie film, I think, has its own like idea of how they want zombies to be, specifically
Yeah.
for their circumstances of the plot. And I think this one was like, all right, we're gonna have zombies that are running in groups and all kind of like are all like there's a lot of like speaking of the last film, there's a lot of like wailing, where they're like getting in people's face and they're like and the person's like oh and it's good, and I love how like I don't know, anxiety provoked it is that it is on a train, so they're all stuck there and they're getting off at stops and they're trying to see if there's zombies there, and then the conductor's trying to decide what to do, and they're like getting back on the train and stuff like that, and they're
Yeah.
like waiting for more people to get back on. Like it's mayhem, and it's good. It's really good fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's just such a great hook too, is to be trapped on, a moving train with zombies like that. That alone is interesting enough to see this. But yeah, and it just has a great like cast of characters too. Like I like the ensemble. There's like the bigger sort of tough guy who's kind of
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
he seems like he's kind of annoying at first, and then he turns into a likable guy. And
Yeah, yeah, and
um
he fights zombies with his hands.
yeah,
Like they're fighting zombies and with their hands in this one.
you
They're
never
like
see that. Yeah.
they're like shoving zombies like
Yeah.
with their hands, like it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then there's like the sort of villains too. Like there's a little bit of not lightheartedness, but a little lighter, just in terms of like there's real like characters um
Yeah, for
that
sure.
that seem a little quirky to an extent. But yeah, also really, yeah, really good zombies, scary but also like realistic in a way too, not just like super over the
Hmm.
top. um yeah, it's just a really solid movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
and also a very tragic ending with this too.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's like tragic but sweet. Yeah, like you
Yeah.
see like there's the daughter is kind of like walking through this tunnel, and she's singing Aloha Oi, I think the song is called, which I'll be honest, it actually like made me check myself. Like when I was watching, I was like, wait a second, that's not Korean. Are we in Hawaii? Or
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah. But yeah, that's also why this movie is so good, is because there is a narrative to like hold on to
Yeah,
besides just survival
right.
too.
It was like very sweet at the end,
Yeah.
and it's not just like all like action and like all like set pieces necessarily. Yeah, like you said, there are characters, and the biggest one is like a father daughter relationship, and yeah, and it's good, and it definitely like gets very dramatic towards the end, and they like I think this is like a very, like I said, like how, like this reached a lot of people saw this. I think that just this movie was very accessible for everybody, and not that just it was fun, but it like in the end, when it was like being dramatic, it was just very easy, well done, relatable, stuff when it was like being sad.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's Train to Busan, which brings us to Terror Train. No, I'm just kidding. Now we're doing Terror Train.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we actually like released our like poster? Korean cinema, authentic
Then-
Korean cinema.
yeah.
And then third one, Terror Train with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah. Maybe that's
But
maybe that would entice people to check it out. I
right,
wondering
exactly.
how we got to that.
Wow, Jamie Lee Curtis was in a Korean cinema movie. But
Yeah.
anyways, our final film for our Korean cinema is Park Chan-Wook, Wook's Thirst. I have been told. All right, we were talking about gaps earlier, right? With Ari Aster. Yeah, big cinema gap was Ari Aster for me, and another big cinema gap for me is Park Chan-Wook, because this is the first Park Chan-Wook I have seen. Haven't seen Old Boy or any of the others that everyone highly recommends.
The Handmaiden.
Handmaiden, yeah.
Great one. Yeah, I love Park Chan-wook. I guess this is the fourth one I've seen, including Old Boy,
Okay, so
Handmaiden,
yeah,
and
this.
Stoker.
Okay.
Yeah. But then he
So
also
yeah,
has like the sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and Lady Vengeance, and I haven't seen those, but those I feel like are two of his more popular ones as well.
so yeah, you're way ahead of me then. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I really love Old Boy and The Handmaiden. I think I've talked about The Handmaiden a couple different times on the podcast.
Yeah, I think
but
so. Yeah, I think so.
yeah,
And I
just
said I
after.
would get to it, and I never did, of course.
Well, now that you've seen this, maybe
Right.
you'll see that, because I think I really like Thirst, but The Handmaiden and Old Boy are like on a completely different level
Gotcha.
of cinema. Like after watching those movies, I'm like, I want to watch another movie just like this, like immediately after.
Gotcha. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I
Something
have
like that.
friends who like love Park Chan-wook, and they told me like they like for him, like for them at least, he's like they like him more than like Bong Joon-ho and stuff like that. And I was like, whoa, when I heard that. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll check him out. Never did. I just tell people I'll watch things to
Yeah.
get
There's
them
so
off
much to
my
watch.
get them
Yeah.
off my back.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch more Steinfeld reruns, please.
Yeah, but I mean, Park Chan-wook, and I feel like has his own style. You can kind of tell when it's one of his movies. I
Yeah.
don't know. They have a certain feel to them, and yeah, and they're a little darker too. This one I felt like was a little more goofy than
Right.
his other movies, but that's part of the reason I liked it a lot too. It's of course starring Song Kang-ho, who is the dad in Parasite,
Yes.
who now I feel like is a pretty recognizable person to the American audience.
Right, because of that. Yeah, and because he just has that face.
He does. Yeah. Such a likable face. But yeah, he is this priest who volunteers for this procedure that's like includes a blood transfusion of some kind, and it goes wrong, and he dies, and he comes back to life as a vampire, and it's
they revive him through I forget what it is, but they basically the way they revive him makes him a vampire.
Yeah, they have the thing over his head, and then he just starts talking. And they
Yeah.
take the thing off, and he's like, "Oh, he's alive." Yeah. Um,
Yeah. And I like the vampire genre. I like it especially when it's done when someone has like a new different vision for it and their own,
yeah.
and this is one of those. It's not what you would expect, and it's definitely, I would say, an acquired taste, but it becomes something like a actual like very unique like love story, which I thought was really good. And there's a lot of, and there's also just like a lot of humor that is in this played throughout too.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you see a lot of his um, just him just dealing with the realities of becoming a vampire, and he's he still has his morals. He's not wanting to
Right.
kill people and drain their blood, but he realizes this is like the reality of his life now. So he works out. Like I thought that was unique too. Is he him and you know once he starts seeing his friend's wife or whatever, they start thinking of
Right.
creative ways for him to get blood.
Right.
Just like
Right.
stealing from a blood bank or something, and yeah. So I thought that was like an interesting thing to do, and also kind of funny. And the woman too. She was just I should say her name, Kim Ok-vin. Maybe that's her. She gets sort of crazy towards the end too, and it just starts to unravel and gets out of control and things go wrong. And I think the ending, I don't know, I really enjoyed the ending too, because it was sort of
Hmm.
Song Kang Ho doing what was like the right thing to do,
Right.
while
Right.
also doing something he hasn't wanted to do from the beginning, um,
Right. Right.
without giving
Yeah.
away too much. But yeah, I like Thirst a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the scene where they kill her husband. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
Specifically, I thought that was just like really well done. It's probably the scene that sticks out to me the most, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just like a good portrait of their whole camaraderie and everything. Is kind of where really they really start to get closer, and aside from just the weird sex stuff that they're doing for most of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, a majority of this movie is watching this couple kind of like have sex and like bite each other as they're
Yeah.
doing it.
That's
So
why
if
I
you
liked it
like,
so much.
so,
Yeah.
so if you, so which is why it's my new favorite movie. So if you're into that stuff, if you're into kinky, watch this and Frankenhooker.
Vampires have always been very like sexy and
Yeah, yeah.
sexual.
It's always been about that. It's like
Yeah.
even in Nosferatu, he's like, I'm luring her back, and
Yeah.
she will definitely like me, but hopefully she doesn't find out about me. Oh, I'm so ugly. It's like,
Yeah.
my life is so sad.
Yeah, it's all just vampires are kind of horny and lonely. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's always like a
Who
sexual
couldn't
element to it,
relate?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why you just connect with it so much. Um, but even like that, we talked about The Hunger maybe a year or two ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Catherine Bigelow, I believe, right?
no, that's Near Dark.
Damn
The
it.
Hunger is Tony Scott
Right,
with David
right,
Bowie and Susan
right.
Sarandon. Another very like
Oh, the
sexy
very different
vampire
movie.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Holy shit. Yeah, the movie was really good.
yeah, yeah, and that's all. Yeah, they're all like dramatic and
Right, right.
yeah, just like having sex all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever watch Only Lovers Left Alive? I forgot.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so that's my personal favorite vampire movie, because I'm just very biased towards the vibe of a Jarmusch movie, and that's what that
Yeah.
is. And so that's mine simply because of that. But like that's like his take on the vampire movie. And I think it's really done. It plays like a lot on like the existentialism of the world that we feel as like people, and then like it's just very much shows these vampires as like outsiders, but they're also very obsessed with art and like
Yeah.
music and stuff like that. And yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, another very unique take on vampires, in a just like a completely new sort of story that, similar to Dracula AD 1972. Also another take on vampires, but Thirst. All of these had some comedic elements to it, which
Yeah.
I was surprised by in all of them, really. When you just look at Thirst, like it looks like it's just a really
Oh yeah.
fucked up.
I was
scary...
like, I'm about to watch the darkest movie. Like,
yeah,
all the imagery is so dark.
And then there's like those scenes where they're, which I really liked, where he's like carrying her and he's just like flying around a little bit, and like it's like a steady cam sort of like on them while like going up in the air.
I did like all the super strength stuff. I thought that was like a lot of fun, definitely.
Yeah, so a lot of fun moments in Thirst too, just playing on like the vampire powers and just like the benefits of being a vampire too, the fun parts of it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, for me, like, I'm happy to have started my Park Chan-Wook journey, and also in maybe more of an unconventional way, because I didn't watch Old Boy first, but I will, as I like to always say, I will watch it.
I'll say it's pretty fucked up, more so than The Orphan, but yeah.
Oh geez.
I'm looking forward to whenever the day is that you watch Old Boy and The Handmaid. No pressure, whenever that is.
Yeah. All right. I hope I get to hear you watch that. I hope I get to talk to you about watching it someday.
I want that for you.
But yeah, that's our Korean horror episode. I mean, like, I think horror in like not just Korean cinema, but like all Eastern cinema is like a really beloved thing. And so I think it was a good suggestion to do this as an episode. I mean, like, they know how to do their movies out there. We've known this. And so like, and they do just seem like the type of people that like, I think One Cut of the Dead, there's a chance it's Korean horror too.
Yeah, I think it is.
I think it is. Yeah. And like, there might be another I've seen that I can't at the top of my head mention now, but there are people that do revere just horror, out there. Just culturally. And so just to add like that part of the world into a horror, like it is just fitting to like, and almost demands attention, like to talk about horror from that part of the world, because I think it is such a huge part of their culture. And I think you could say arguably, especially modern, like they're doing it as good as anybody. So yeah, this was a good just like good exploration for us.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of darkness in Korean cinema, at least the stuff that we get over here. Bong Joon-ho, Park Chan-wook, they all have very dark filmographies,
right?
And the Wailing, Train to Busan, also like that. And I'm not sure culturally, why that is. If there's more to the Wailing of the Japanese man coming to their small village and things sort of went crazy.
Yeah.
Like, is there more just like cultural history background to that too? Like, does that represent something? Just that because it's South Korea is a country that's been through a lot, especially in the past like 100 years. So
for sure,
So it's just interesting. I feel like that that's probably somewhat of an influence on the themes of these Korean horror movies.
I did think like just to go off that point real quick, is that in Train to Busan there's that like opening scene where like the farmer is like, what are you doing, like blah blah blah, like and he's expecting to be like controlled like the way he usually is, but it's just this time it's not that like that he's actually being protected by a zombie outbreak. But I think it is playing along that like what we've made perceive about South Korea, you know, and that whole area.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's